let's stick with Lagos, by the way. But of course, this is an African story because the Africa Finance Corporation, which is headquartered in downtown Lagos, has provided a funding window of nearly $10 billion across 35 African countries, and in projects from power to logistics to telecommunications, heavy industries, and more. Now, the AFC was set up in 2007 and has continued to grow, and one of such growth was an increase in membership of sovereign states. Joining me for a chat around this and more is Dr. Ini Urua. He is a senior vice president and head country relations at the Africa Finance Corporation. A good evening to you, sir, and thanks for coming through on the show tonight.
Thank you, Bosan, and thank you for inviting me to your program.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your presence. What is the significance of this milestone in signing up over 30 countries as members in relation to the mission of the Africa Finance Corporation?
Well, I think as of today, we can safely say that majority of the African countries have joined the membership of AFC. And the importance of that is that, the countries are now getting aligned to the mission of AFC, which basically is to provide solutions to the challenges that Africa faces in infrastructure and industrial development.
The three newest member countries show a broad span in terms of their geography, their culture, their economic development. How do you address the varying infrastructure needs of such a diverse group of countries from North, East, and West?
No, I think when you start talking about infrastructure, I mean, basically the theme is still the same. It's either you have it, you don't have it, or it's not in a good state. Basically what happens is that if you're looking at, say, West Africa is plagued by, difficulties in transportation, especially in the air systems. If you go to call it Central Africa, where Burkina Faso is a part, or you can call it West Africa at the same time. But also they have challenges in transportation. They have challenges in ICT. They have challenges in industrial outputs. In the northern African countries, they are much better in transport infrastructure, but nonetheless, they also have challenges in actually deepening the infrastructure assets that they have. And so AFC actually discusses with countries, and then they finds out what their challenges are, and then we profess solutions to support them to solve those kinds of difficulties and challenges.
For countries such as Nigeria, one of it has to do with the petroleum industry in terms of availability and subsidy and the lack of refining capacity. Have you done any intervention so far? What's the state of such an intervention in Nigeria?
Well, I mean, as of today, we have actually provided about 1.6 billion to almost 24 projects spanning across most of the sectors in the oil and gas, the LNG, in transport, telecommunications. If you're looking at telecommunications importantly, as of today, we are the biggest equity investor in the Main One cable, which actually provides broadband across West and Central Africa combined.
But you also have some investments in refining industry, isn't it?
Yes, we do. Actually, I think the project that we supported recently is Walter Smith, which is the first licensed modular refinery in the country, which is has gotten into production. So yes, we have actually supported projects in refining. In Nigeria, refining in Cote d'Ivoire, refining in Cameroon, refining in Senegal, refining in Guinea. AFC is available, and basically we look at projects on a case-by-case basis, and then find solutions that matches a particular project and a particular region or country.
But what will the AFC's membership mean to people or citizens in this latest three member countries? What can they look forward to from the Africa Finance Corporation?
I think for most of the citizens, if you're looking at improved infrastructure availability in the countries, it means that you can now be able to draw in the real sector. I think it's important to note what AFC does is to actually make sure that the infrastructure provision provides a platform for the productive sectors to come into play. And when that happens, then you have a potential for employment for the youths, and you have a potential for a stronger economic development in either the country or the regions or sub-regions, as the case may be. And so, if you're looking at, the countries, for example, DRC, which joined recently, we have done a lot in the mining sector. We are at the moment actually, working with the UNECA to try and see how we can position DRC as one of the centers to drive what I might call the battery minerals in the world.
Very interesting. Let's talk about your membership again, because you've grown quickly in the past 5 years from 14 members now to 31. How did you achieve this? And what is the outlook for the future growth? How quickly do you think you'll become the African Union, in a manner of speaking, with 55 member states?
Well, getting members or getting countries to accede to members is getting them to believe in the mission of AFC, getting them to see the relevance of AFC to actually solving their challenges. And I think, as you have rightly said, is that most of the countries have now been able to see what AFC does and how AFC can support them and move things together with them forward. So it's basically discussing with the countries. In terms of outlook, I believe that, hopefully by the end of this year, we should add at least 5 more countries, if not more. And I think as more countries come in, other countries will join. But the ultimate is that I think AFC would like to get all the African countries to become member countries of AFC. In terms of a timeline for that, I'm not going to speculate, but it's going to happen, and it's going to happen very soon.
Yeah, well, okay, let's begin to wrap up this conversation, Dr. Urua. In terms of your A3 investment grade credit rating affirmed by Moody's, which raised your outlook to stable. This is an important endorsement, but does that mean you'll be looking for any international fundraising anytime soon to support your various interventions across the continent? How much will you be looking to raise, and how soon will you be hitting the market?
Actually, we've been raising financing in the international market over the years. For example, in 2020, during the peak of the COVID, we were able to raise 700 million euro bonds from the international market at a very favorable rate. So the importance of the rating actually is that it will enable AFC to access more financing from the international capital markets at a very favorable rate. And the impact of that is that we now transfer those benefits to projects in the countries or in the sub-region, as the case may be, which will now be able to enable us to do more and to make sure that the countries can actually move forward in terms of being sustainable in their infrastructure assets.
Also, now you're going back to the global marketplace.
I think my colleagues are working on something. I'm sure when they get there, you will know.
Well, let's be the first to know.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will be.
Dr. Ini Urua, thank you so much. It's nice having you on the show tonight. And congratulations for adding those more countries and getting a whole lot of work you're doing here on the African continent. Senior Vice President and Head, Country Relations at the Africa Finance Corporation. Enjoy the rest of your evening.